Are you going to help me tell about this month's hymn? Well, then you better get up here. So not a lot is known about this month's hymn of the month, Beautiful Savior, in terms of like the history, its source, where it first arrived from, any of that. What we know is that in Lutheran circles, it has become a favorite, and it's worth examining why. Probably the reason that Beautiful Savior is so popular in Lutheran circles is because of Epimelius Christiansen's arrangement for the St. Olaf choir, written decades ago now, and still used to close pretty much every single concert that St. Olaf puts on. That Lutheran choral history influences us at a congregational level more than you might think. A lot of the hymns and anthems that we first get introduced to as choral pieces later become favorite hymns for us. For instance, the song God We Gather as Your People, or For All the Children, which we'll be singing in June as our June hymn of the month, was written as a choral anthem first and was sung in Lutheran choral circles before it became a hymn, before it became used as a hymn. And that's just one very recent example. Beautiful Savior, King of creation, Son of God and Son of man, truly I'd love thee, truly I'd serve thee, light of my soul, my joy, my crown. We don't often have permission to view kind of the masculine things in our life as beautiful. We don't give ourselves permission to use that language. Oh, he was a beautiful man, we might say of somebody who's very extraordinary, but not often. We don't usually associate it as being a personality trait or a moral standing. We tend to associate it only with physical beauty. I think that's one of the reasons why I love Beautiful Savior as a hymn, is it gives us permission to encounter Jesus as a beautiful being, as a person of beauty. The hymn also allows us to encounter Jesus in terms of nature, the comparison to nature. Fair are the meadows, fair are the woodlands, robed in flowers of blooming spring. Jesus is fairer. Jesus is purer. He makes our sorrowing spirits sing. And here again, kind of related to our conversation last month, this is not fairer in terms of like paler in skin, you know, the way that we would talk about a person who gets sunburned really easily. No, this is beauty. Fair as in pretty. Fair as in lovely. And one might be able to throw in a sort of double meaning here, fair as in just. And similarly, fair is the sunshine, fair is the moonlight, bright the sparkling stars on high. Jesus shines brighter. Jesus shines purer. We're using imagery that we encounter all the time here in the Pacific Northwest, imagery of woodlands and meadows that we just drive a little bit and we run into when we're going into the river valleys, or maybe we run into when we're going on hikes on either side of the water. And we encounter nature in such a powerful way. We have a lot of people in our synod who talk about the encounters that they have with God in nature. They talk about their encounters with the divine when they've visited Holden Village, or when they've been out on the Olympic Peninsula and just been surrounded by this awe-inspiring beauty. And the hymn writer reminds us, yes, that's amazing. And Jesus is more. Our Savior is more. And lastly, Beautiful Savior, Lord of the nation, Son of God and Son of man, glory and honor, praise, adoration, now and evermore be thine. Why Beautiful Savior? Why February? As Dane and Lee and I were sitting down to discuss this month's hymn of the month, one of the things that we were trying to find is a hymn that could make the switch from Epiphany to Lent. A hymn that could make the switch at Transfiguration Sunday, at Ash Wednesday, and get us from one side to the other, to get us from the time of revelation and new things within ministry, turning towards the difficulties of walking towards the cross, that side of that journey. Beautiful Savior has long been one of my favorite hymns for Transfiguration Sunday. Transfiguration Sunday is coming up when I'm recording this. It'll be next Sunday as I'm recording this. Transfiguration Sunday tells the story of Jesus taking a few of his very best friends up onto this mountain, and the world is transformed. Jesus is transformed, transfigured. These disciples, these friends, see a vision of sorts. They see Jesus in a new way. They encounter him as something that they haven't seen before. His clothes become blindingly bright. And depending on which gospel you're in, Peter either speaks out of a desire to just stay in that holy moment forever, or speaks out of a combination of fear and ignorance and says, we should just build a shelter, we should just stay here. And a voice responds, this is my child, my beloved, with whom I am well pleased. Listen. So telling Jesus' best friends, Peter, James, and John, telling them, listen to this one who has the favor of God and who speaks the truth, who is fairer and more beautiful and more just than anything we have encountered up until this point. Those parallels with the hymn Beautiful Savior are probably pretty obvious, and therefore one of the reasons that we thought it would make a good parallel with that particular festival Sunday. And then we turn the corner and Ash Wednesday rolls around, and we have to wrestle with our mortality, and we have to wrestle with Jesus' mortality as being both divine and human, Son of God and Son of Man. And what does this hymn say about that? Well, truly, I'd love thee. I would love thee. I would serve thee. Using the more archaic translation, right? Telling Jesus, you're beautiful inside and out, and I love you. What better time to reflect on that than Ash Wednesday, which happens this year to be Valentine's Day, to remind ourselves of the entirety of what that love means, felt appropriate. In our Lenten Wednesday services this year, we will be exploring creation care. We will be exploring stories from creation and the reality of humanity's effects in the anthropological age, in the, what do they call it, the Anthropocene, where humans are making as much impact on the natural world as the natural world makes on us. And our series this year will encourage us to sit with nature, to sit with these siblings in creation, not quite siblings, but you know what I mean, to sit with other creatures, maybe creatures like this one, although he's not very happy with me at the moment. And so our hope, our prayer this month, as we encounter this hymn, the band and the bells have already introduced us to it. We'll be singing it, we'll hear it from the choir. As we encounter this hymn in more ways over the course of the month, we will encourage you to take this journey as well, to be together on that mountaintop at Transfiguration and then turn the corner at Ash Wednesday to continue our journey of Lent, all bolstered and supported and speaking the common language of this